and another effective one. Matthew breaks a tackle, breaks another, gets a block. There are no flags and the race is on. And Matthew goes 90. Burrow with the snap. Here comes the blitz. Burrow steps away from it, throws, catch made! Justin Jefferson has it at the 38, racing down the far line, sideline, 10-5, touchdown, Tigers!
Another play fake by Burrow, and a deep strike, and an open receiver, Jamar Chase, another touchdown!
Daniels pulls it, takes it himself, he's got the sideline! Jane Daniels off to the races! And a bang back inside, he takes it to the house! 85 yards for Daniel!
Go ahead and say it, Ed.
Go Tigers!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into another edition of your favorite podcast. This is the Geauxld Standard. I'm your host, Doe. Thank you for joining me here today. I hope everybody has had a wonderful week. I hope you have a great weekend upcoming. Get to spend some time off from work, get to relax, kick back, and watch that Super Bowl that's upcoming. Do me a favor, drop down in the comments and let me know who you think is going to win the Super Bowl. I'm a little conflicted. I think I want Seattle to win, so I'm going to go with Seattle, okay? We got a lot to talk about on this episode. I just watched the Lady Tigers take their loss to Texas, which we'll quickly review. We'll talk about LSU's finished signing day class as they signed a few more guys to the high school and JUCO class coming in as of Wednesday. And we'll talk about some comments from Coach Kiffin on his first press conference since the introductory press conference. I listened to the press conference from front to back earlier, took down a lot of notes, took down some important quotes that we'll dive into and talk about here on the Geauxld Standard Podcast, where we love purple, but it is all gold, baby. Make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you turn on your notifications. Make sure you share this out to anybody who you think is an LSU fan, who likes the Tigers, who likes to keep up with the Tigers. Look, we just have a lot of fun here and talk about our LSU Tigers. So all the support that you guys can give me, whether it's a like, share, a comment, whatever it may be, I appreciate it. This channel is consistently growing, and it's growing because of you. And I can't do it without you guys. So continue to keep it up. Don't stop. Keep it going. Keep it going. Let's make 2026 an even better year than 2025 was, okay? So let's get into what I just watched, the travesty with the LSU Lady Tigers basketball. The Tigers lost to Texas by a score of 77-64. The Tigers shot 41.7% from the field. They were 25 of 60. They shot 38% from three, going 5 of 13. 64% from the line, going 9 of 14. The Tigers got out-rebounded offensively, 10-8. And then they out-rebounded Texas 22-20. Both teams had 30 rebounds. Sorry about that. 14 assists for the Tigers, 4 blocks, 6 steals, 17 turnovers to 9 Texas turnovers, 34 points in the paint, and 18 fouls. So with that said, I mean, the big thing that sticks out to me is the Tigers, for a team that averaged 99 point whatever points a game that they said so many times tonight. They scored 64 points. They did not score 20 or more points in either period, while Texas scored 27 in the second quarter and scored 20 in the fourth period. Hard to win that way. It just is. And it's shocking. I'm not going to say shocking. It's surprising that a team that scores 100 points can struggle against a team that plays good defense, but it's almost at the same time not surprising. I do have issues with the flow of the offense when LSU plays a good team, a good defensive team that can challenge them athletically and with speed and with length. I do question where the offense goes because it just seems to turn into ISO ball one-on-one, not a lot of people coming to get the ball, not a lot of people coming to set screens, not a lot of off-ball screens. That stuff just doesn't seem to happen. I don't know if that's a product of the Mulkey offense or a product of the team still learning and gelling and going through this SEC schedule, but I'm not quite sure what the Tigers go to when the rubber meets the road and it's a really tough, close game, other than Michaela Williams just being who she is and trying to make a crazy shot every time down the floor. But that's a lot to ask and a lot to get done against really good teams. So stat line, Grace Knox played 18 minutes and she grabbed 4 points and 6 rebounds. Kate Koval, 20 minutes, 4 points, 4 rebounds. Flau'jae Johnson, 34 minutes, 11 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists. You'd like to see more there. Jada Richard, who may be my favorite Tiger girl on the team, she had a really bad night. I think she was like 1 of 11, 1 for 12, something like that. But she played 30 minutes and had 2 points, 3 assists, and 0 rebounds. Michaela Williams, 37 minutes, 20 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist. Amaya Joyner, 18 minutes, 5 points. Malaysia Fawali, 23 minutes, only 9 points. Bella Hines played 3 minutes and scored 2 points in garbage time. And Zakiya Johnson played 17 minutes and scored a total of 7 points. So, yeah, I mean, the big one is going to be next Saturday against South Carolina. So the Tigers do have a chance to bounce back. I think there's a game in between maybe. But if not, it's always a huge opportunity to play against South Carolina and possibly take down the Gamecocks. But LSU is going to have to be better at turnovers. You can't get doubled up in turnovers. You can't be 17-8 and expect to win. You can't shoot 40% from the field and expect to win. You can't shoot 64% from the line and expect to win. And 38% from 3 is not that good either for the amount of threes that you're taking. So, a lot to improve on. I'm not going to jump off the ledge now and say, oh, my God, the season is over or whatever it may be. Texas is a really, really good team. I like the build of their team. They're well coached. They're tough. That little point guard is everywhere. She had like 6 steals, 6 to 7, 8 steals tonight. Madison Booker is a bucket from mid-range and in. And they got some good role players. And I think LSU is missing some of that where, it's a gift and a curse to have depth on a basketball roster because you need to find roles. You need to find positions to say, this is the 1, this is the 2, this is the 3 on the offense. Everything else and everybody else, your role players. But I think LSU has so many really good players and maybe not a great player other than Michaela Williams that sometimes it just gets lost in translation, and you could see them on offense. There was a possession right there towards the end of the game where Jada Richard brought the ball up the court and just kind of dribbled around. And it's like, is somebody going to come get the ball? Nobody's coming to get the ball. Nobody's going to get the ball. And she did a weird step through offhand, off-balance shot to try to get it at the rim, and it just didn't happen. So, again, the Tigers will be 21-3, still an excellent season. Still a lot on the line, a lot to prove, but you want to be improving and playing some of your best basketball in February going into the tournament in March, okay? But the Tigers still, like I said, they have an opportunity to prove who they are, show up who they are against South Carolina, but you got to take care of the ball more. You got to have a little bit better flow and motion on offense. It can't be if there's no fast break, there's no offense, and LSU relies on fast break a lot. So we have to be able to, stir up offense and get offense going when the ball stopped. And when the ball stopped and it's just not a free run to the basket. They miss a lot of easy layups. A lot of times they're not boxing out, just simple basketball stuff here and there. So Coach Mulkey and her staff, they got a lot to work on. They got a lot to look at. They're going to go watch the film, hopefully get better and improve from this loss. All right, so next up, the Tigers did put the finishing touches on their high school recruiting class. The Tigers did sign a total of a 18-man high school and JUCO class, and they took 42 in the transfer portal, which is a total of 60 new guys that'll be Tigers next year. We'll just go through them because it's only 18. So the class is headlined by 3 5-stars. You got Lamar Brown, 6'4", 285 out of University Lab. You got Richard Anderson, a 5-star. 6'3.5", 350 out of Edna Carr. And then Corey Barber, who we talked about on the last pod, 6 foot, 185 receiver out of Clay Chalkville, Alabama. Those are your 3 5-stars. You have Deuce Gerald, who's a 4-star, 6'1", 268 out of Collins Hill, Georgia. Trent Henderson, who's a 4-star, 6'4", 255 out of Pine Forest in Florida. Bryson Martinez, who's a 4-star, 6'5", 290 out of East Ascension, Louisiana. Haven Finney, who's a 4-star, 6'1.5", 170 pounds out of Sierra Canyon in California. Jabari Mack, 4-star wide receiver out of Louisiana, Destrehan, 6 foot, 200 pounds. Aiden Hall, who's a safety, 4-star, 6'1.5", 195 out of Edna Carr. J.C. Anderson, who was one of the flips, the other flip from Ole Miss's class. He was 6'6", 230 pounds out of Mount Zion, Illinois. Dez Ellis, 3-star, 6'2", 185, plays quarterback for his high school, just kind of the best athlete. Franklin Parish in Louisiana. Braden Allen, who was another flip from Oklahoma, 4-star wide receiver, 6'1", 175 out of LCA, Lafayette Christian in Louisiana. Isaiah Washington, who's a 4-star, 6'1", 170-pound safety out of Hayneville, Louisiana. Jacoby Jones, who was a 3-star, 6'5", 295-pound, originally from Manning, Louisiana. I think he went to Colin JUCO. Ryan Merritt, who's the other flip from Ole Miss, is a 3-star, 6'4", 300-pound inside lineman out of Miami, Southridge, Florida. And Mari Peterson was a late add. These last 3 guys they signed on Wednesday. And Mari Peterson, who's a 3-star, 6 foot, 185 out of Evans, Florida. Jackson Williams, a 3-star, 6 foot, 200 pounds, 6'2", 180 pounds out of Marrero, Louisiana. And then Adrian Lamb, who was highly recruited, 3-star, 6'5", 290 pounds out of Beaufort, South Carolina. He was a JUCO guy that was Alabama was all over him. Someone else was all over him, but I think it was a lot of SEC schools trying to get him in at the last moment, and LSU was the one able to pull it out. So, yeah, we talked a lot about the transfer portal class, but you have to be happy with the solid foundation of what you got here with the high school recruiting class. Smaller than normal on what you normally see, but in the coaching change, that's bound to happen because you're going to have a lot of give and take from the class. You got a lot of give with guys like Corey Barber, J.C. Anderson, Ryan Merritt, and you had a lot of take because you lost some guys. But Coach Kiffin was able to secure Lamar Brown, Richard Anderson, Corey Barber, Deuce Gerald, Trent Henderson, Bryson Martinez, Haven Finney, Jabari Mack. A lot of guys that can potentially be impact players for the Tigers next season. So, yeah, I went back and listened to Coach Kiffin's initial press conference from Wednesday, which was the first one that he's done since the introductory press conference that introduced him as the new head coach of the LSU Tigers. And there was a lot of things that I took from the press conference. I wrote down a lot of quotes here. I'll talk about each quote, each statement, and kind of bold point. Talk about how I feel about the statement and what he said about the statement. So, yeah, there we go. The first quote I took from it was that Coach Kiffin said you have to look at recruiting basically as like the NFL. He likened it to where in the NFL you have a draft class, which you compare to the recruiting class, and then you have a free agency class, which you compare to the transfer portal. So he said, in totality, he kind of looks at the class holistically. Not just high school recruiting, not just transfer portal, but overall, he's looking at the collection of what he got out of the transfer portal and what he got out of the high school class, and he just kind of takes an NFL approach to that. He did dish out the numbers. LSU's got 3 new quarterbacks, 4 new running backs, 10 new wide receivers, 9 new offensive linemen, 2 tight ends, 6 defensive linemen, 2 linebackers, 3 DBs, and 3 specialists. So a lot of pieces we talked about in the transfer portal class already about, how many guys that they took. I think it was 42. So yeah, again, just hearing those numbers out loud, and I was like, man, he did bring in a lot of guys, just between quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and offensive line. I mean, that's what, 19, 23, 27, new bodies there. Coach Kiffin also talked about the staff. He said putting the staff together. He talked about how difficult this whole process was and how they were able to be successful with all of the things they had to deal with in this process. He talked about putting a staff together at the same time as doing bowl game prep, which he wasn't a lot involved in, but he's still, the team is still kind of overseeing everything. And, the transfer portal, LSU holding on to their own guys, coaches in recruiting high school guys and worrying about high school guys and getting started on the portal and putting the board together, and the transition with the coaches going back and forth from Ole Miss to LSU and Ole Miss to LSU and Ole Miss to LSU. He basically said through all that, for us to be as successful as we were, it gives us confidence and it gives us an excitement about going forward, about what we can do with a full year under our belts, where we're not having to worry about all those factors. Yep, he said they're excited about the future of recruiting with what they did this year. The big one that stuck out to me is that he said, it did stick out to me because I've said it in podcasts, but I think a lot of people will hear it and it won't ring like it should. But he said, we have a lot of work to do now. He talked about, sure, it looks good on paper. He said this transfer portal class, you could say it's the best of all time on paper, but that's not going to win us any games. It's not going to score any touchdowns. It's not going to get any takeaways. It's not going to do anything other than on a piece of paper say what we should be. It's still up to us as the coaching staff. It's still up to the players for us to put this thing together. And he just listening to the press conference, he really, really seems like he's embracing the challenge. He really likes recruiting. He really likes the grind of it. He really likes the grittiness of the state of Louisiana and how, we just get behind one another and support one another. So Coach Kiffin is ready to go. He seems like he's ready to go. And he got questions about what put LSU over the top as far as comparison to the other offers that he had out there. He said there was a really good plan in place from the top down, close quote. And I know before he got hired, and I came on here and told you guys again to ignore all of the stuff that was out there, that behind the scenes, LSU was still the best job on the market, with the support, with the fan support, with the NIL, with the stadium, with the facilities, with everything that you can be as the LSU head coach, with the last 3 not named Brian Kelly all winning national championships. It shows you the potential that's there to be a juggernaut and be a monster at LSU. And I think that's what Lane has just been talking about. He's been saying just different. But he said, and you have to give credit to Verge Osbury, Wade Roos, and all the administration for having everything lined up for him to make him feel comfortable again and leaving his situation where he was in 6 years, an 11-1 playoff team. He said out of his own mouth that there was a really good plan in place from the top down, the resources and everything involved with that. He said it was a fantastic job of LSU putting it together and presenting it to him, and made it easy to, kind of accept and become LSU's next head coach. Another thing he talked about with taking guys in the transfer portal, he said building depth. He said he wanted to focus on building depth. He said a lot of times when you see transfer portal class, they're just top heavy on a lot of senior guys, and then you're just basically having to repeat that cycle over again in the following season, and that can be really, really taxing and draining, and just, a lot of work to try to replace. You got 20 seniors coming in. If you've got to replace 20 seniors next year, you got to go right back and do exactly what you did this year. And the idea of the transfer portal is to have to take less and less and depend on it less and less as time goes on. I'm saying less miles must be somewhere close. But he said, they wanted to focus on not just getting the top heavy guys, but getting the 2s, getting the 3s, and guys that can develop and guys that can practice well, guys that make you better in practice, guys that are, going to be parts of the future and pivotal parts of the future. And we talked about it with that transfer portal class. They did get a lot of guys that have more than 1 year left, and that's exciting for the future. He talked about how LSU is just different, aside from NIL. And I know he's been hammering that home, but he talked about in the recruiting, guys would come on campus and they would stamp on campus, and them and their families, they would just talk about how it was just a different feel compared to some other locations in school where they went. Just when they stepped on campus, they were overtaken. They were just, consumed by something different that was on campus. And, seeing all the guys that have played at LSU and seeing all the guys that have had success in the NFL and everything in the recruiting department. He said, in the recruiting department, from the fans to the restaurants to, everywhere that they go and see, there's a lot involved in an official visit for a recruit, from on campus to, to administration, to teachers, to classes and taking them out and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of wheels in that call that have to work well and work together. And Coach Kiffin said that everything that's involved with that, with LSU, has been phenomenal. And he said the feedback from the recruits and their families have been the same, to where it's not just about the NIL. It's about them stepping on campus and loving and liking what they feel from him, from the staff, from the administration, how everybody's locked in and just kind of on the same page and moving in the same direction. And you could just feel that. Sometimes you can feel that, and it's obviously resonated with the recruits. Now, again, I'm not saying that any of these guys came to LSU for free. It's a business, so there's money involved. But Coach Kiffin is saying they didn't just come for the money, and he gave examples of him being at Ole Miss, that they didn't lose a lot of their good players to the portal because of the relationships that they established, how they took care of their players, how they resonated with their players. And that's some of the same stuff that he's already instilling and installing in his time at LSU as their head coach. Another quote that I loved, he said, the best players will play regardless of salary. So that means if I paid you $2 million to come and be a starting wide receiver, and the guy behind you makes $750,000 and he's a better player, he's going to see the field. And I think that's a very, very big drastic change from the last staff, from the last administration, to where they kind of felt obligated to play certain players due to whatever outside pressure or monetarily, how much they paid them on the NIL. So they just had to play them. I'm telling you, Lane's going to make sure that the best player is on the field. We just saw with Trinidad Chandler over at Ole Miss. He gave that as an example of where they went into the season with Austin Simmons. Austin Simmons gets hurt. Trinidad Chandler comes in. He plays well. He stays in. They didn't go back. So that right there is proof of the pudding, to show you that he has no problems in playing the best player, even if it doesn't look like the best thing from the outside. He said also that he's been getting good feedback from the high school coaches. He likes how in Louisiana it seems like the coaches care for the players more than just players. They he said they're really, really involved in the coaching and in the building of the character of these young men. And they've been all over the state. And, they've touched probably every significant high school in the state, either he or his, assistants or something like that. So he said the feedback that they've been getting as well, and he's been taking everything in from advice on, what he can do better and how he can resonate better and that kind of thing. He's just ingratiating himself. That's what you're supposed to do as a new head coach in a new area, in a new state where you haven't been before. You try to get in there, you get down in the dirt, and you ingratiate yourself with the people. And that's just something that Brian Kelly never did. And it's why he never really resonated or connected with the fans. And then the last quote I had right here is they asked him about Sam Levin and all the stuff that happened with, going back and forth and then going to the Knoxville airport and, kind of chasing him down and making it happen. And I like what Coach Kiffin said. Coach Kiffin said he's not good at taking no for an answer. So he said that kind of thing just drives him when it comes to recruiting. That's the thing that he likes about recruiting. He almost kind of likes being told no so he can kind of win it over. I'm sure he'd enjoy to get a quick yes and get it out of the way. But he's up for the challenge of kind of swaying somebody when he feels like they may be saying no or leaning towards or trending towards saying no. He also talked about Blake Baker as well, how important it was to keep him and Corey Raymond. He said keeping Corey Raymond was an easy decision. He talked about the history of Corey, the guys that he's put in the league, and how well he still continues to coach and how well he still continues to recruit. He just said that one was an easy one. Literally, that was quote unquote. He said that one was an easy one. And he talked about facing Blake Baker the last couple of years and just seeing him from the other sideline, and being impressed with how he transformed their defense year over year. So he was really excited to be able to keep Blake, really excited to be able to keep Corey as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is all I got for the day. We are about a week away from LSU baseball kicking off and the return of the Tigers. And it's time to run it back with Jay Johnson and his boys. But thank you so much. Thank you so very much for your time. I hope that this was informative. I hope that you got something from it. Remember to smash that like button. Remember to turn on your notifications so you don't miss any episodes. Remember to jump down in the comments and tell me, how are you feeling about Coach Kiffin saying that LSU has a lot of work to do? Does that scare you? Does that make you encouraged? Do you feel all right about it? How do you feel about the Lady Tigers going into March? Do you think they can be an Elite Eight team, a national championship type team? And how do you feel about LSU baseball? Do you think the Tigers are going to run it back with Jay Johnson as they go for 3 out of the last 4? Ladies and gentlemen, I am signing off here. This has been the Geauxld Standard Podcast, and I am your host, Doe. And we love purple, but it is all gold, baby. And I'm aiming to be your number one place for LSU news, updates, and unsolicited comments from your boy. Ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful evening and a wonderful weekend. I will see you guys on Sunday night. But if nothing else, tell them I said, play Nick. Peace.